welcome to Mechanicsburg Mystery Presents, a conversation with Misty Simon and Gabby Allan. Our guest today is well known to mystery fans in the Harrisburg area, particularly in Mechanicsburg, where she set 5 books in her Tallygraver mystery series. She's published numerous romances and cozy mysteries, and she will be debuting a new series and a new pen name in July. She lives with her husband, daughter, and 2 insane dogs in central Pennsylvania. So please welcome one of our favorite authors, Misty Simon. Misty, hello.
Hello. I hope everyone is doing amazing things right now. I love the Mechanicsburg Mystery Bookstore. You just cannot go wrong. Every time you're in there, it's like it's just a plethora of beautiful things between books and the different things that they have out that you can buy. It's just one of my favorite places to be.
Yes, it's like a home away from home if you like your home with bodies in them.
That's okay.
Yep. You said from your website that you live with 2 insane dogs. What's that all about?
Oh my gosh. So I have a Bichon Maltese and a Bichon Maltese Cocker Spaniel. And they are the Bichon Maltese Cocker Spaniel is 18 pounds and the Bichon Maltese is 8 pounds. And they are 16 and 15 years old and they still run around like puppies. You cannot get them to stop like barking at each other. They bark at the door. One of them is deaf now, but he still barks because that's just how he's built. And when they're out in the backyard, they're running all over the place and they really are quite insane. We have just learned to love them the way they are.
That sounds like a very high energy household that you live in.
I do.
When we were talking about this yesterday about how to title this show, I wasn't quite sure whether to call you Misty or to call you Gabby, because your new book, What's Much Ado About Nauticaling, is coming out under a different name, Gabby Allan. How did that come about?
Oh, goodness. So, well, with the Misty Gabby thing, I am trying, honestly, to respond to both because there's part of me long ago, I said, I'm not going to ever have a pen name because I'm terrified that I won't respond to it, that I'll be like at a book signing and someone will be like, Gabby, Gabby, Gabby. And I'm turning around going, Gabby, will you please answer? Oh, right. That's me. Okay. Sorry about that. Hi, how are you? With the Gabby thing, Kensington, so I write traditional mysteries for Kensington currently. I have been. The Tallygraver mysteries, they're a little fringy. I wouldn't say they're right smack in the middle of traditional mysteries because there's a couple things that are different about them so far as like the way that things are told. They're a lot of fun, but with Essie, who is my editor, and I had been talking because I had been going to these cozy cons that Kensington puts on, and I was getting a lot of younger people who were coming to my table, and they were like, I love the traditional cozies, I really do, but I kind of wish some of the characters were a little more like me. And I said, well, what does that mean? And they're like, well, there's a lot of characters they're a lot of fun and stuff, but I feel like they're older. And they're not necessarily doing quite what we do. And we like some romance in there is fine, but we kind of want it to be like a little different. That's what I kept hearing, a little different. And I'm like, oh my gosh, you sound like every publisher and agent ever. I love your story, but I'd like it to be just a little different. Well, what does that mean? So I talked to Essie and I was like, look, I really think that there is something to be said for adding a romance aspect into these that is not like they meet in book 1 and everything's fine, or they meet in book 1 and he's a cop and so they kind of circle each other, but more of a RomCom aspect is really what we were looking at. And so Kensington was like, okay, so let's call it a RomCozy. And I was like, oh, you are just about the brightest thing in my sky. I want a RomCozy. And so I had said to Essie, look, this is what I'm hearing. All I want is the opportunity to try. I'm not saying that you can't take the idea to other authors. I'm not saying that you have to do my book or you're not allowed to do this. I really just want the opportunity to try. And so we did Much Ado About Nauticaling, and she was like, this is hysterical. And I said, I know, I love that, Whit thinks that she has left this boyfriend over on the mainland in California. And he takes a diver position on this tiny island that only has like 3,000 residents. She is not going to be able to avoid him. That's just all there is to it. And so as we were going through, it was like, well, this isn't quite a Misty Simon book. And I'm like, well, have you ever read Poison Ivy? Because my very first set of cozies that I did with a super tiny publisher is exactly this. And that was, 16 years ago. And she said, but people might not understand that because what they attribute to you right now is more of the traditional. And so we kind of had this conversation where it was like, well, what about a different name? And I said, I'm on board with that. If you feel like that's something that will differentiate enough, but can I pick it? And they were like, well, yeah. And I'm like, okay, I want to be Gabby Allan. And she said, well, that was really fast. And I said, well, I talk a lot. So that's Gabby. And then I love Edgar Allan Poe. So let's just be Gabby Allan. And she was like, I don't know why you surprise me anymore. Like, I don't know why I get surprised when you say things anymore. And I was like, I don't know. That's really on you because you shouldn't be. If you're dealing with me, you know what you're getting.
Mm-hmm. Well, that answers the next question, which of course is why it was Gabby Allan. But did you know it was also the name of another, this star, this pneumatic blonde who's the star of Love Island?
Isn't her name spelled with an E though?
Yes, it is.
So yes, when I threw it out there, and then I did start looking at, websites and that kind of thing. And I was like, ooh, all right, there is a Gabby Allan out there. How do I feel about that? I felt that because she wasn't necessarily in the book world, that there was, and because it is spelled with an A as opposed to an E, that there was enough difference. Because really, if you look up Misty Simon, which is my real name, there is a prison guard who is in jail for helping inmates escape because one of them was her lover. So I don't know that you can come up with any real name that's going to be completely not used, unless you're willing to go with a name that's also not pronounceable.
It's difficult. My wife has one, Odessa Moon, for her science fiction romances. And we even got the URL for it. And literally like a month and a half later, there is a blues singer by the same name, and she just started, and she had to get something different because we caught Odessa Moon first.
Well, and that's, you just never know, I mean, that you do your best, and you try really hard to find something. Now, for your wife, Odessa Moon, I feel like that really flows with what she does. When I first heard that was the pen name that she was using, I was like, that is so perfect. Another thing that I really liked about Gabby Allan is that it sounds bouncy.
It is
to me,
very much so.
And it does sound younger. And so, I mean, not that my name is old, unless you know where it comes from. That's too not old, but I mean, I was named after the Led Zeppelin song. So let's just be honest about the fact that it comes from Misty Mountain Hop. It is what it is. But so I was just like, I'm willing to take a chance, because there are so many Harpers out there. There are so many, Allisons, and I didn't really want to be anybody that I knew. So like, I can't be a Natalie. I didn't want to be a Vicky. I can't be a Jen. And so I just thought, I'm just going to go with it. And I mean, hopefully people will find me through like Facebook and be able to put me together through things. And as far as Amazon, if you do pick up Gabby Allan or put in Gabby Allan, I am the only one who comes up.
Yep.
So titles are different. I do not like to ever have a title that somebody else has.
Yep.
But names, I'm not so much hardcore about on that.
Yeah. Well, I think a title, especially, it's so important because it conveys the book, which is why I see, Enchanted or Drive or Kill as for thriller titles. And it's just like, this doesn't tell me anything.
Right.
You might as well just say Campbell's Cream of Thriller Soup, because that's basically what you've got.
I want to write that book. I want to write camera. Yes, I do. I want to write. I'm going to go tell that to Essie right now. I'll dedicate it to you, Bill.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah,
somebody's got to do this.
Right. Seriously. Thank you. And that's, I have, I think it's close to 50 books now out. And as far as I know, there is one title that is duplicated. And it was really strange because so I had put the titles to Essie early on, and it's Deceased and Desist. And the book was coming out in October, and the May before that October, another author put a book out with that name. And I was like, ooh, can we change it? And she's like, no, it's already so far into the process, we can't do anything. And I was like, all right. But everything else, Cremains of the Day, Grounds for Remorse, Varnished Without a Trace, like they're not there. And so, 1 out of 50 is not bad. But I do definitely, that is something that I do because so when I'm writing, one of the first things that I have to have is a title. I write to my title. I know everybody is different in the process, but I have to have a title so that I know what my book is about. And so that's something that I will immediately go on Amazon and start looking for. Okay, is it used? How close are other things that when I type in my title are what's going to come up to go along with it? And for the most part, I don't really, if you're going to name a book Desperately Seeking Salvage, I don't know that there's going to be a whole lot. Don't Dream It's Rover. I wear my ghost goggles at night. These are things that not a whole lot of other people are using.
Yep.
And yet, for the most part, people are laughing before they even open the book. They're laughing at the title.
Yep. And even because those were all 80s songs, there are people who have done variations on it, but you find that one little twist that that makes it particularly your own.
Yes.
Now, this is the first book in your Wit and Whiskers series, as I understand it. I assume Wit is Whitney Dagner. I'm looking at the list of your characters. Whitney Dagner, your protagonist, and who's Whiskers?
Her cat, which I really messed up. I did a chat with Publishers Weekly. They were doing a virtual conference, and I'm talking about the book, and I'm calling Whiskers he did this, he did that, and then I stopped myself in the middle of my chat, and I'm like, ooh, you know what? I think Whiskers is a girl. Hold on a second. So I grabbed my book and I'm like flipping through the pages, and I'm like, okay, I'll be right with you. Oh yes, Whiskers is a girl. Okay, so can we let's just flip that all around. She is doing I have a lot of characters in my head. I currently have 4 series running. And so sometimes I just get confused when I'm, talking about things, but I will forever know that Whiskers is a girl because it's one of those things that I'll just never, ever forget. But yeah, so she is Whitney's cat. And then Whitney's best friend is Maribel. And so they have moved to Catalina Island from Long Beach to escape corporate world because Whit works for the railroad. And so she does not want to have to do that anymore. So her grandparents have retired. from the glass bottom boat business that they've had in the family for generations. And her brother is running it, and she does not want her brother to have all the fun. So she decides to start life again, and thinks that she has left everything but her cat and her best friend back on the mainland when she doesn't have to deal with anything. And then somebody's dead, and here comes Felix walking along the dock in his diver suit, and she starts running. So
So this is going to be very different in tone, I guess, from the Tally Graver series, because first of all, there's no funeral home around, so
no.
going to be this. Is there any? You'd mentioned some of the other changes, that it's kind of more of a rom-com as well.
Yes.
Not quite. I mean, I know what a rom-com is, but it seems like there's always that romantic element in a cozy. So is there going to be more of it in this series than you would find in the Tally Graver series?
Right. So in the Tally Graver series, they meet in book 1. In book 2, they're kind of dating, and it progresses in a pretty steady flow. So I know that you're familiar with romance because we are acquainted outside of this particular venue.
I have read a lot of romances.
Yes,
to
you
tell
have.
You the truth, and the good ones are just really, really good.
Absolutely.
I mean, so.
And I love romance. I really do. I'm just not that good. The ones that I have written, I love, and I love so much about them. I have, however, really struggled sometimes with the big conflict. So, in a romance, as we've talked, that you're going to have, the meet cute, and they have issues with each other, and then like there's a big black moment, and then they do something, learn something, become something that allows them to have their happily ever after, or to have earned their happily ever after. And I love reading those so much. I am not as good at writing them. And so in this, definitely, speaking to Essie, I'm like, this is like the perfect melding of everything I love, because it doesn't have to be an easy romance, but it doesn't have to be to the level of a romance only. And so that's the part that I like. And they're not going to have to be together from book 1. They can have rocky parts of their relationship. They can have, and it doesn't have to be because he's a diver, or because he's with the cops, or because he did a newspaper article on her that she doesn't like. It can be literally because she has issues, and she needs to work through those issues. And it's like, I almost think it's like a winding around of each other, where, yes, the mystery is going to probably be like 65-70% of the book, and the romance is about a 30-35, maybe 40 sometimes. There will be scenes where it's more about the romance than it is about the mystery. So in a cozy mystery, at least the ones that I have written, I try really hard to make sure that the mystery is present in every single scene. Right. And so in the Wit and Whiskers series, that is not going to necessarily always have to be what I follow. I can pull the the romance forward for a scene or a half a scene, and then I can push it back and pull in the cozy mystery aspect, and kind of play with the balance of those, instead of just having the slow romance underneath and then the mystery is all over, but definitely always present. Yeah. So we'll see what happens. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, it was really funny because Kensington's like, we're putting you at the front of this genre. And I was like, what? No, no. Misty does low key stuff. I'm aware that if you find me at a conference, okay, so let me react.
Come on, low key, Misty. Really?
Well, so low key when it comes to books, not the subject of the books. But for instance, when I worked with and I still do, when I work with the Wild Rose Press, when I worked with Dramar Publishing when I first got started. If I sold three digits of books, I was like over the moon.
Mhm.
If I had 5 people that weren't related to me that were reading my books, I thought that I was like killing it. And so I guess that's what I mean by low key. I have
Yeah.
never really over presented myself as a writer. If you want to seek me out as a writer, I am totally on board with that. And I will go to conferences and I will be there in my vintage swing dresses with my petticoats, and I will have big, huge hair, and I will be as loud as anything in the room. But as far as the books themselves, I kind of always achieved like these okay numbers. It wasn't, if it wasn't selling, I didn't have to have an Amazon rank that put me in the number one. Like, it didn't bother me that I was not a huge author.
Mhm.
So as far as low key, I felt like, hey, you know what? Someone has read my book. Someone that's not me and is not my critique partners has read my book
Yeah.
and likes it. And I'm good with that. If I have 2 reviews on Amazon, I am absolutely fine with that. So, but this this is a whole new animal, and I do not know why it has jumped out of its cage, but I am so on board with running with it. I have done a number of podcasts now. I never thought I would say this, but I have spoken more in the last week than I have in like a year, and that might have something to do with the coronavirus. but I was like, wow, I have talked so much, but I love it. But it was like, I don't think I've talked that much in a really long time. I have, I just had an interview with somebody who does the Murder and Mayhem uh, website. And
Mhm.
then like I made this list of the 15 best books to look for in cozy mystery on Book Riot.
Oh.
I'm doing virtual book signings. People want book plates, and I just sent out 150 door knockers or door hangers, door
Go ahead.
knockers. Don't listen to me, door hangers. But I'm like normally I'd be like, ooh, somebody wants a door hanger. That's the third one. And
Mhm.
now it's like, that hurts to sign 150 door hangers. I am completely on board, but it's very it's a little strange to have been doing this for 20 years
Mhm.
and to have been a smaller person as far as
Mhm.
numbers and readers, and I've steadily ramped up, but this is like an explosion that I don't think I was expecting. And
Mhm.
I'm super excited about it, but I do find myself going, I've never been on a list before. I don't know what am I supposed to do? Do I just share it? Like, is that, and I am a huge cheerleader for anyone and everyone. I know that you and I have dealt in other business things. I
Mhm.
am always going to be your biggest cheerleader. If you get on a list, I will absolutely repost that. But I am finding that I hesitate to repost for myself
Yep.
because I'm like, well, I'm really good at bumping up other people.
Yeah.
How am I supposed to do that for me? Can somebody else do that? And I'm like, you know what? You have been working for this for 20 years.
Mhm.
Do not shy away just because now it's here. I know it took longer than I thought it would, but funny enough, in 2005, I heard Debbie Maycomer speak at an RWA meeting, and she had said that, so her first Cedar Point book or whatever had come out, and this was the first thing that she had really done outside of the Harlequin category books. And she had been in an interview and somebody said, so how does it feel to be an overnight success? Because I think she hit the New York Times list or she hit the USA. I'm sorry that I don't know exactly which one, but she had taken it up a pretty big level from where she had been. And she just laughed and she was like, I've been publishing for 20 years. This is not, so I'm a 20-year overnight success. And I thought at that time, I would totally be okay with that. I don't know. I don't want to be a flash in the pan. I don't want to have my first book here hit the New York Times bestseller list and then I can never top myself. And so when I first found out that we were doing all of this, my first thought was, and my second thought was, you are ready.
Mm-hmm.
This is what you have been working for 20 years, and you are ready. So put your big girl panties on and start posting like you're going out of style. Stop it. Don't be like, you want this and people want this for you. There are so many people who are like, oh my gosh, you're on fire. I am so excited, because they've been with me for the past 15 years.
Yeah.
They've watched me do everything in my power to do the best I can with what I have. If that is the Wild Rose Press, then I'm going to throw that out there, but I'm going to be excited if I have 10 people reading it. I'm still going to be excited if 10 people read this. However, Kensington sent me an email and they're like, hey, by the way, we've been talking to bookstagrammers, which I did not know there was such a thing,
Yeah.
and they're book influencers. And I was like, oh, okay, I need to get on Instagram and start friending people. And they're like, well, we have 70 of them. Okay. And so they sent me all these links of all of these bookstagram posts, and they all have the book. And I was like, oh my gosh, because there was not one. Maybe there were 10 that didn't have, but almost all of them had at least 1,000 comments that were
Wow.
saying, I want to read this book. When does it come out? I'm going to be reading this book. Is there any way that I can get this book? Is it on NetGalley? And I'm like, that's a lot of people. I mean, even if 10% of those people go out and buy this book, that's huge. And
Yeah.
I'm super excited about it. Please do not think that I'm not super excited about it. My heart flutters over the opportunity that I am being given and hope to just run with. But it's very strange to go from, being really liked in Mechanicsburg to having a virtual book signing in Orange, California,
Right.
that they have people coming to. And I'm like, well, who else is going? Because you can't be coming for me. And I'm not trying to look for compliments or anything. I know that I write good stories. I just know that sometimes they're directed at a specific kind of reader. And so I've always been fine with, I would rather write the ones that I want to read and find the readers who love what I do than try to write what I think everyone will like, but I'm not certain that I love it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
So to have written something that I love and to have a lot of people loving it is just, it's awesome.
Yeah. Well, that's success on your own terms. You're not chasing a trend. You're not chasing, the hottest thing and publishing something in the same line. You're just being yourself and you're getting validation for it. And that's, just an amazing ego boost.
And seriously, you can bring that on, because we were talking earlier before we started recording about, okay, there are certain things that I do not want to test the universe on. Like, I'm not going to say bring on certain things, but this one, bring this on. I am all, you just bring that on until the day is done, because I really do. And I love these characters and I want other people to love these characters. I mean, I have had certain people, and I know that we're primarily focusing on Gabby Allan, but with the Tally Graver mysteries, I've told this story a number of times. So if somebody is listening that also listen to another podcast, you can, just move forward a couple seconds. But there was a guy, and I got an email from him, and his father is sick and he takes care of him, but they have both read the Tally Graver mystery series. And when his dad is having a bad day, they actually get in the car and they go around to all the places that I mention in the Tally Graver mysteries, because it makes his dad happy. How do you not love that?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like, if I can touch thousands of people like that, it overwhelms me with how awesome that is.
Yeah.
I really, and especially if they are loving something that I created because I love it too, then let's roll. I'm super excited to do whatever it takes. So if I'm talking to somebody every night for, like the next year, I just need to start gargling some salt water.
Yeah. Well, I recommend Throat Coat because
Oh,
it's tea-like, and it's got anise and I think cinnamon, some cloves, and
oh.
of course, it doesn't sound like my throat is getting any better. I sound like I'm gargling gravel at the moment, but
I
that's
think
all right.
you sound wonderful.
Oh, well, thank you. Appreciate that.
Absolutely.
Okay. So this takes place on Santa Catalina Island.
Yes.
What do you know about the place?
So I lived in California from 13 to 28, and we went to Catalina on vacations. And so they have a campground that has teepees. I have stayed in the teepees. I have gone just for the day a number of times. You can take the boat over out of Long Beach is where I usually go from. I did internet research. I also talked with the guy who actually owns the glass bottom boat business on Catalina Island. I went over there in November of 2019. I dragged my aunt with me, not really dragged since she wanted to go too, but we rented a golf cart, and the poor boy at the golf cart counter did not know what he was getting himself into when he asked me, how could I help you? So I feel like I know enough to give you the flavor. But as with any setting, I do take liberties with making it fit what I needed to, but I did try really hard to stay within the lines of what Catalina is actually like. I've never lived there, obviously, but I definitely visited enough that I was like, okay, I could write this.
Yeah.
I could definitely write this and give it a float, which is really funny because the Kirkus reviews, I forget what the exact first line is, but their review is, forget the people, the setting in this is awesome. It's like, all right.
I guess that's a compliment.
I think you know what, we're going to take it as a compliment.
Yeah.
And we're just going to say, thank you very much. I appreciate that. But I think, to me, the setting is very important.
Why did you pick it in the first place? Why did you pick it in the first place?
So when I was considering writing a new series, I thought, okay, look, you've got like 3 series that are set in of fake Mechanicsburg. I have a romance series, I have a paranormal mystery series, and I have the Tally Graver series, and they're all set in a version of Mechanicsburg. Yeah. I have a series that's set in Virginia. And I was like, I think maybe you need to go a little farther afield. And so one of the things at the time that was that publishers were looking for were more vacation type spots. And so originally I had thought about doing Lake Arrowhead because I used to go to Lake Arrowhead all the time. Also, it's where I honeymooned. My husband and I would go up there all the time. It's a small town, but it's like a small town on the perimeter of a really big lake. And so I just thought, well, that would be a lot of fun. And then I thought, oh, but then there's all the trees. And there's like, how are you going to get people from here to there? And I don't know. It's vacation-y, but it's not that vacation-y. And you're still going to have to deal with snow. And then I thought, oh, we could do Catalina. Are you ready? Could you do it? Can you do it? Can you do it? And I was like, you know what? I can do it. Let's do this. And so I started writing, and I thought, you know what? The worst thing that can happen is that I'll write it and I'll be like, this sounds totally fake. Go do something else. I had not yet sold it because, so depending on who you're selling to, and like at the Wild Rose Press, I only give them completed books. At Kensington, I tend to be able, because I have a track record with them now, I am able to send them 3 chapters and a synopsis, which is considered a proposal for anyone who's listening that is not sending out proposals. And I thought 3 chapters is not going to hurt me. If they don't like it, or if I have not nailed the scene, or if they're like, this is very strange and we don't like it, I haven't put too much effort into it.
Mhm.
I definitely put a lot of effort into those 3 chapters, but 3 chapters is like, 45 pages. It's not a 300-page novel that now I don't know what to do with. And so they loved it. And so I was like, okay, now you got to like call. You have to
Mhm.
start calling around and talking to people. You have to get over there and just get. I am one of those people where I don't always have to ask questions. I need to soak in the atmosphere. And so when I did go over there, like I was sitting on the boat going over, and I'm not talking to anyone, which I know that probably shocks you, but I didn't. I didn't talk to anyone because I just sat there and I was like, okay, just like feel the weight hitting the boat. What's the speed like? What does the air feel like? What are you feeling as you're going across? Okay, now go outside and like look at the island as you're coming in. What is out in the ocean? Can you see anything? Are there animals like dolphins floating up, or what are we doing? And so just kind of like my aunt and I just walked up and down all the streets, and then we grabbed a golf cart and we drove all the streets, and I went past their police station and just kind of felt like, okay, now I'm ready. Let's go ahead and get into the writing and see what you've got. And then verified to make sure, that they do actually have the bird that I just put on the island. Or how long have the buffalo been there? And that was funny because so they do have buffalo on the island because someone had come over there in the early 1900s and done a movie, and they left the buffalo.
Mhm.
And so they have never gotten rid of them. They haven't moved them off the island. They let them hang out and do their thing over there. So, and it is definitely a place that I feel like I can play with the scene a lot, for nothing else than because we got tourists coming in.
Mhm.
And so, and you have people who, rent a slot out in the bay for their boat, over the weekend. And
Mhm.
then there are people who Airbnb their houses and other people who live there. And so I really like the idea of messing with people who don't live there, which is
Mhm.
not something that I've done in another series. So that was another thing, is that I was like, okay, where are you going to put this that you haven't done something just like it before?
Right. Yes, tourists bring their own stories with them. And
Yes,
that's
they do.
helps get you a little away from the Jessica Fletcher syndrome where, it's all everybody's local is starting to run away from you as you come down the street.
I often say, if Jessica Fletcher ever showed up in a town, I am running, because that is worse than wearing a red shirt in Star Trek. Because you might as well just lay down and put a little note on your chest that says, "I'm pretty sure it was Jacob who did it." I mean, there's just no way. Well, and again, because I've watched every single Jessica Fletcher that's out there. I grew up on that with my grandfather. He watched
Oh,
Murder, She Wrote, he watched Perry Mason, and I got to watch some Columbos, not all the Columbos,
yeah.
and Benny Hill, which was really funny because later on in life, I was like, that's really inappropriate. So you are not, I wasn't allowed to watch Columbo, but you're okay with Benny Hill? Oh, whatever.
Actually, I
But
can think I'd like a world in which that's the case. Actually, it's
yeah.
nothing wrong with beautiful women and rude jokes compared to, oh, let's just strangle him and hang him up in the rafters
Right.
there.
Right. And then someone will find him eventually,
Yeah.
hopefully before they eat dinner. But I ran into that with the Ivy Morris mystery series, because I was like, okay, look, how many people are you going to be able to kill? And how many people are you going to be able to have as killers before it's like, what is wrong with your town?
Yeah.
No one's ever coming in. And I do understand there is a suspension of disbelief, obviously, that the author is asking the reader to put on that hat before you even open my book. I mean, as an amateur sleuth, am I really going to be the one solving the mystery as opposed to the police? Am I really not going to get in trouble for breaking and entering into a bed and breakfast and hoping that I can find the key to the locker I need underneath the desk drawer. I mean, that's not in real life, that's not going to happen. So obviously you're already on for the ride. But I, as an author, started feeling like this is getting kind of weird. Like I'm not on board, at least with like Donna Andrews. Her character travels a lot. And so, but even that, sometimes I'm like, wow, everywhere you go, someone dies. You might want to worry a little bit about that and think ahead. But I just thought, with having an island and having them, having the tourists come in, you have far more people. And there are a lot of people who visit Catalina Island on a regular basis. So it's not necessarily like that one lifetime trip to Disneyland. You will go back over and over again. So what is the guy's name who used to do Star Search?
Oh boy.
McMahon?
Ed McMahon.
So one time when I was at on Catalina Island, there's a restaurant and it has an upstairs balcony. And we walked by and there's Ed McMahon sitting up in the balcony. And somebody just started singing on the sidewalk. And they were like, I want to be on Star Search. And he said, there's an application that you need to fill out. But, and everybody's clapping and stuff. So there are, Marilyn Monroe used to be there all the time. The Wrigley Mansion is over there from the people who make Wrigley gum. And there's a lot of different things that I will be able to play with in these books. And I am really, really looking forward to it. I already started. So the second book is done and already on Essie's desk. And that one's going to be called Something Fishy This Way Comes.
Lovely.
So,
lovely. Yeah. And this book, Much Ado About Nauticaling, is coming out July 27th. Is that
yes.
it? Okay. Yep. That's good. And I think there's going to be something special for the month of July at Mechanicsburg Mystery Bookshop as a way of celebrating your new series here too.
Christmas in July. Yes.
Yeah, that's
Please go over and make sure that Deb knows that, Bill and I sent you.
Absolutely. I need to get this contract picked up for another run of shows here. So
that's what I feel like we can make that happen.
That sounds great. Misty, thank you so much for participating today. We've been gone for 40 minutes. So I think we did very well. No, don't be. This is great.
Good.
So this has been a lot of fun.
Yes.
And I'm just going to go ahead and say goodbye and say this is Bill Peschel from Mechanicsburg Mystery Bookshop. And I hope that your favorite book is the next one you're reading. Bye-bye. The Mechanicsburg Mystery Presents podcast is sponsored by the Mechanicsburg Mystery Bookshop in Mechanicsburg, Pennsylvania. The store is open with limited hours, plus we accept appointments and offer a drive-by service. The store will also ship books to your home, including those from the Peschel Press Mystery line, including our annotated editions of novels by Agatha Christie and Dorothy L. Sayers. To learn more, visit the store at www.mysterybooksonline.com. And thank you for listening.